Have you ever found yourself just staring at a screaming toddler, a totally derailed classroom, or a chaotic bedtime, asking yourself, why do kids act out? It is the universal, exhausting, and honestly deeply frustrating question that every educator and parent faces, usually right after stepping barefoot on a Lego. You know the drill. You try everything, reasoning, pleading, timeouts, and nothing seems to stick. But what if we've been looking at the whole problem backwards? What if that massive tantrum isn't just a random outburst, but actually a hidden language? Listen to this. All behavior is communication. That simple sentence, it's an absolute paradigm shift. When young kids display challenging behaviors, they aren't just trying to give us a hard time. They're actually having a hard time. They're expressing an unmet need. Maybe there's something they desperately want to avoid, or something they really need but just don't have the words to ask for yet. Once we wrap our heads around this mindset, we stop being the rule enforcers, and we basically become translators. So welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today. If you're looking to transform daily chaos into cooperation, you're exactly where you need to be. Today, we're diving deep into decoding challenging behavior in early childhood. I'm going to equip you with a highly practical, evidence-based toolkit drawn from some of the leading early childhood resources out there. We're talking real, structured strategies to help you understand and guide the young children in your life. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, decoding challenging behavior. Then, we'll look at the ABCs of behavior, followed by proactive prevention strategies. After that, we'll explore the power of visuals and wrap up with a collaborative family approach. Let's jump right in. Section 1. Decoding challenging behavior. Okay, so first things first, we need to be clear that we aren't just talking about a kid having an occasional grumpy day or doing some normal toddler boundary testing. Challenging behavior is specifically defined as any persistent behavior that interferes with a child's learning, their safety, or their relationships with peers and adults. If a behavior is frequent, disruptive, getting worse over time, and putting the child at risk for later social struggles, well, it warrants our attention. Because left unresolved, these behaviors don't just magically disappear. They tend to snowball. Section 2. The ABCs of behavior. Let's look at a real-world situation. Meet Julia. She's an incredibly hardworking single mom of 4 kids, ranging from 2 months to 6 years old. And her 3-year-old daughter, Emma, is generally a super sweet kid with some mild developmental delays. But recently, evenings have turned into an absolute nightmare. Every single night, right when Julia starts getting the kids ready for bed, Emma completely melts down. She's throwing toys, hitting her younger siblings, falling on the floor, kicking and screaming. Julia is understandably completely overwhelmed. She tries to calm Emma down by holding her and talking to her, but the chaos just repeats, night after night. So how do we cut through this chaos? We play detective, using the ABC model: antecedent, behavior, and consequence. When we track these 3 things, a clear pattern emerges. The antecedent, which is what happens right before the behavior starts, is that mom starts tending to the younger siblings. The behavior is Emma throwing toys and screaming. And the consequence, what happens immediately after, is that mom stops everything else to physically hold and talk to Emma. You see the aha moment here, right? The data reveals the actual function of the behavior. Emma isn't just being bad. She's figured out that extreme behavior is literally the most effective way to guarantee her mother's attention when mom is busy with the other kids. Section 3. Proactive prevention strategies. Now, before we can go giving Emma new skills, we've got to check our own approach. There's a really sharp, vital difference between discipline and guidance. Traditional discipline is usually tied straight to punishment. Think timeouts or taking away a favorite toy. But for a kid like Emma, who is acting out specifically seeking connection, punishment can actually make her feel rejected and angry, which, you guessed it, usually makes the behavior worse. Guidance, on the flip side, is proactive. It treats misbehavior as a teaching moment in a highly supportive environment. It builds the trust you actually need to change behavior in the long run. Through that guidance approach, we can teach what are called replacement skills. Remember, Emma's main goal here is getting attention. So instead of punishing her for screaming to get it, Julia can proactively teach her a brand new, acceptable way to communicate that need. Replacement skills are things like teaching a child to ask for a turn, request a quick break, or in Emma's case, say or use sign language to say, "I need help." The real magic trick here is positive reinforcement. The very second Emma uses her words to ask for help, Julia needs to swoop in with immediate positive attention. This literally rewires the child's brain to realize, oh, using my words gets me what I want way faster than throwing my blocks. Section 4. The power of visuals. For young children, especially those who struggle with transitions, verbal instructions often just go in one ear and out the other.
Enter the first then board. It is a game changer, and it's brilliantly simple. You just cut out visual cards that represent activities, pick the ones you need, divide a board into first and then sections, and stick the cards on with a bit of Velcro. What this does is visually break down a huge, overwhelming sequence into just 2 bite-sized chunks. First we clean up, then we play outside. It drastically cuts down on anxiety because the child knows exactly what's expected of them and exactly what the payoff is going to be.
And we can apply this perfectly to Emma's stressful bedtime. Instead of a vague, overwhelming instruction like, go get ready for bed, Julia can use these visual cards. First, the pajamas card. Then, the toothbrush card. Emma can literally see the steps right in front of her. And when she finishes putting on her pajamas, she gets that satisfying feeling of pulling that card off the board. It gives her a real sense of control and mastery over her own routine. For longer, more involved routines, a full visual schedule pocket chart works absolute wonders. It outlines everything that's going to happen: bathroom, washing hands, reading a book, the whole shebang. And having a little finished envelope at the bottom, that is key. Having the child actively move a completed card into that finished envelope celebrates getting it done. It turns what feels like a chore into an interactive, predictable game. The child feels secure because they aren't guessing. They know exactly what's happening now and what's coming next. Section 5. A collaborative family approach. Let's go back to Emma and Julia for a quick reality check. Emma's developmental therapist originally gave Julia this fantastic, technically sound behavior plan that used visual schedules and timers. But after 3 days, Julia totally abandoned it. Why? Because the therapist didn't factor in Julia's actual life. Trying to manage a complex new behavioral chart while simultaneously juggling a newborn baby and 2 other young kids was literally impossible for her. The truth is, if a behavior plan isn't a good contextual fit for a family's day-to-day reality, it is going to fail. Every time. To fix this, the therapist and Julia had to sit down and lean into the principles of partnership. They had to communicate openly, share power equally, and redesign the plan together. They adjusted the context. In the new, realistic plan, Emma got to be the special helper for the bedtime routine. She got to start her bath first while an older sibling kept an eye on the baby. This simple pivot gave Emma the positive, focused attention she was craving from her mom. It actually fit into Julia's hectic evening, and it successfully stopped the tantrums. It just goes to show we absolutely have to focus on family strengths and resources, not just textbook theories. Which brings us right to our final thought. I want to leave you with a question to chew on. If challenging behavior is truly a child's way of speaking, are we truly listening, or are we just reacting? By using that ABC model to figure out the function of the behavior, replacing harsh punishment with proactive guidance, leaning into the structure of visual schedules, and making sure our plans actually fit real life, we stop just reacting. We finally start listening. You now have the tools to be a translator of behavior. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope you can use these strategies to bring a bit more peace and a lot more understanding to the kids in your life.